The most powerful leaders in tech are following these 5 principles.
Yeah, so I was doing some research, and I've always been fascinated with Bill Campbell, who is, known as the executive or business coach to people like Steve Jobs, right? And so, I was just following kind of his process and really broke it down into 5 different categories. Number 1 is no cookie cutter leadership. So, as you unpack that, you really start to understand everybody's different. Each one of your employees are different. Each one of the people you work with are different. So if you have a cookie cutter kind of one size all, some people you might need to encourage more. Sometimes you might need to be a little more firm with people. You don't know that until you get to know your team and your people. And really, you shouldn't be just saying, hey, here's the blanket way I do this across the board. It's much more nuanced than that if you want to be effective and get the most out of people. So no cookie cutter leadership was one.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Yes. Because people are individuals, right? They're not, it's a collective. They're actually, they have their own unique goals, their own unique lifestyle, their own unique aspirations. So unless you understand that and know what makes them tick, right? Some people just don't react well to a certain type of correction, right? It needs to be, sometimes I call it wrapping, a little shit with a little sugar, right? So you can, the way you deliver the message to somebody might, at the end of the day, the objective is to get the most out of people and help them thrive the most, right? And people thriving there and happy, they're typically better performers at the end of the day.
I would say a lot of team captains, team leaders would completely agree with that, because you have to know the people you're leading. And like you said, they don't always take things the same way. So, someone who takes constructive criticism really well, the next person might not. You have to speak to them in a way that's going to resonate with them. And that just comes along with knowing your people.
Yeah. Sometimes in a group setting, it's okay, and sometimes you need to grab people and do it one-on-one. You don't know that until you actually get to know your team. So spend time with your team, get to know them as individuals, and you'll start to have an understanding of how to manage them better, which is going to make their life better and make your life better. Yeah. So the second lesson was good managers support, respect, and trust, right? So let's unpack this a little bit from a support standpoint. Support just means that you're giving them all the tools that they need. You're giving them the guidelines, the roadmap on what it means for them to be successful, right? So, you support them. Respect is something, the way that we do things here is we're all the same people. There's no, this one's better than this one. We're all just people that are working together for a common goal. We happen to work together, and there happens to be different titles under our names. But at the end of the day, dude, we respect each other. No matter what your title or position is, it's respect is important.
Yeah.
And then trust, trust in a business, when you're trying to grow, you're small, you're bootstrapped, or whatever, the trust, being able to know that the people that you work with, you can trust to give them a task. You can trust that they're going to keep information confidential. You can trust that they're always going to think about, what's in the best interest of the customer and in the company before themselves, right? And so there's a level of trust there that, in the beginning, you're taking someone's word for it in a lot of cases, but trust is typically built over time by doing the right thing, right? Continually doing the right thing, you develop that trust. So the only way to get that is to actually, work that closely with your team and put them in a position where you have to trust them, right? That goes back to the delegating stuff. You have to be able to trust somebody to delegate things, right? So trust is a real big component. The third one is one-on-ones and staff meetings. The staff meetings and one-on-ones can kind of set the tone of really, when you're in a group setting, of how you're going to operate, right? Is it going to be fun and light? Is it going to be super organized? Is it going to, those interactions with your team in either a group setting or one-on-ones, even with one-on-ones. So you understand the feedback loop, right? Just like we have feedback loop in marketing, we have a feedback loop with our team, right? So if you're bringing them in one-on-ones and asking the right questions, and that trusting environment will allow your team to be open and honest about what's really going on, right? Because it's hard to fix something when you don't know it. Well, the only way to know it is by having people trusting each other, so they're free to really just talk about what's really going on, where they don't have to hold anything back. And I think you can create an environment that allows that to really flourish, right?
Yeah. Have you ever heard the statement, if we're not growing together, we're growing apart?
That's it.
That reminds me exactly of that.
Yeah. And just staying staying in tune with your people. Like, I know when I walk in, I can tell by Mike's demeanor, your demeanor. Like, if you're really paying attention to people and their body language, you can understand where they are. And listen, it goes a long way if you notice, hey man, somebody's just acting a little different. Just the fact that you noticed means a lot to people, right? So it's just being in tune with your team, and you do that through one-on-ones, and really your staff kind of, your staff, events or your staff interactions where you guys are collectively together. You got to set the tone of the way you're going to kind of operate, right? And that will filter down through everything else. Golly, this is one that's really interesting. It's called smarts and hearts, right? So you always, talent is you're recruiting talented people, but the things that you measure or you evaluate for is mindset, character, and potential, right? So you're looking at this slate right now, and this is who this person is. And I'll use an example as you, right? So you came in here and I could tell you had the mindset, you had the character, you had the drive, and you had your education, right? So I knew you were smart enough to do it, but those other characteristics that you had made me know that you were going to be super successful at this, and you were going to really thrive, right? So you bring in people that are talented, but you're evaluating their character and those kind of things.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the fifth thing was how to lead in hard times, and listen, we've been through a roller coaster here. So unfortunately, I've had to learn how to do that. And really what it comes down to is your integrity, right? Your commitment and your diligence, that no matter what's happening, you don't let your team see you sweat, right? Everybody knows when times are hard, right? But as a leader, you got to rise above that, and you got to come in here because, listen, man, if your head's down, then everybody else's head's going to be down, So I think I can see how all of these things are super important. And listen, as leaders, we're always growing and we're always getting better at these things. We're always improving these things. So this is just a framework. And then wherever you are right now, listen, be honest with yourself, evaluate yourself, and how do you match up to these things? And then if there's things that you can improve upon, listen, I can tell you because I've inadvertently practiced a lot of this stuff through the School of Hard Knocks by not doing it and realizing that it was a good thing to do. Wherever you are, that's where you are, but you can continue to get better if you just start paying attention to it.
Wow, that was awesome, guys. So the 5 principles that some of the biggest leaders in tech are using. So if you have any other principles that you feel like should be on this list, comment below.